Ukrainians coming to Canada. So where are we at? I'm hearing that there's flights in the air, flights coming.
Yeah, that's right. So I think before we get into the flights that are coming, I just remind folks that we've got now a little more than 25,000 Ukrainians who have arrived since the beginning of the year. Some of those would have come under the new visa program that we've created. Some of them would have come through pre-existing streams. But going forward, there's a couple different options for Ukrainians who are seeking to come to Canada. As of this morning, it's now public that there's going to be 3 chartered flights to start with, going to Winnipeg, Montreal, and Halifax on the 23rd, 29th, and 2nd of June, respectively. That's in addition to the commercial options that we've been working with Air Canada and the Shapiro Foundation. And I should reiterate my gratitude for their generosity. That's going to cover the cost of travel for at least 10,000 Ukrainians. One of the things that we're watching really close is what the expected demand is going to be, which is very difficult to predict. I was actually in the region last week, and we're seeing that countries like Belgium, who anticipated 200,000 Ukrainians, have now seen about 30,000. And with Canada, 25,000 since the beginning of the year, flights covered for more than 10,000 people in commercial options, and now 3 charter options. It seems we've got a significant transportation capacity. So we're going to keep watching to see the volumes that may choose to come to Canada, and it's been an interesting thing from a logistical perspective, but from my perspective, whatever we do to help vulnerable people get to Canada is something that is worth doing.
How many of them are here with the emergency program?
So that are in Canada with the emergency?
Arrived through the program.
Look, I don't want to guess poorly here. I'll have to confirm. I just didn't have it fresh in mind. We've seen so far about 92,000 approvals through the emergency program, largely since the end of March, and it's being processed right now quite quickly, so I expect that number to continue to grow. It's a little bit difficult to predict where it's going to end up, because what we're hearing on the ground is there's a lot of people who are taking it out as on a speculative basis, so to speak, to monitor the situation on the ground in Ukraine to figure out whether this is something they're going to need to avail themselves of. We're seeing, when I was meeting with some of my counterparts in different parts of Europe last week, a real reticence for the Ukrainians who have fled to go too far, and when they do travel, to even go too far from major transportation hubs that will make it easy for them to go back. So the Polish authorities I met with said, we're very, very grateful for Canada's generosity. You can appreciate for a lot of the people who've come across and are making a temporary home in our country, Canada might be a bit far, and they worry they won't be able to return as easily. So there's some challenges like that we're monitoring, but we can follow up with you on the back end to get you the number of people who've been approved through the special visa that are now in Canada.
En français, où est-ce qu'on en est avec les vols sur Ukraine?
OK, I think, juste pour vous êtes court si j'ai posé une réponse avec vraiment mauvais, mais OK, je travaille plus forcément français, mais juste la question les vols non lisés. OK, c'est important pour le gouvernement de démontrer les commitments des peuples de l'Ukraine avec le nouveau programme et avec les vols non lisés et avec l'arrangement avec Air Canada, les fondations Shapiro. Il y a 3 vols non lisés dans le mois de mai et le 2e de juin. L'occasion pour le vol non lisé arrivé au Canada. Et Winnipeg le 23 de mai, Montréal le 29 et le 2e de juin, juste le jour après ma fête. Et l'autre Belle-Provence, Nouvelle-Écosse. Et c'est important parce que ce n'est pas juste... il y a beaucoup d'Ukrainiens dans le Canada-Ouest de Toronto, mais chaque province, chaque communauté veut de faire une contribution. C'est un effort avec l'importance pour tout le monde et pour tout notre pays. Et avec les vols lisés pour Montréal, Winnipeg, Halifax et des options commerciales, c'est possible pour des Ukrainiens d'arriver à chaque communauté au Canada. C'est une bonne chose, pas juste pour les Ukrainiens qui veulent arriver au Canada, mais pour les communautés qui accueillent les Ukrainiens aussi.
Any comments on the Ukraine flights?
Well, I'm just relieved to see that we have 3 flights arriving to Canada. carrying Ukrainians who are seeking refuge here in Canada. So this is good news for those who've been waiting for that.
And you've talked about some logistic challenges in the past. What's changed? What had to get sorted out with the airlines that is allowing them to go through now?
Yeah, look, one of the challenges is that people who had applied for visa were not where they applied for visa. So it took, and it continues to take a lot of effort to sort out where the applicants are, where they are able to depart from, then also the arrangement for them, sorry, I'm out of breath, to come back, to come to Canada, where they're going to settle in Canada. So all of that logistical issues had to be sorted out.
Have we made any progress on the CATSA discussions to streamline airport security lines?
I met with the CEO, Mike Saunders, on Monday. I know that he understands the sense of urgency for this. Just so you know, Labor, obviously, they're continuing to increase their workforce, but their workforce is at a good level right now. They're at 88, 90% of what it used to be before the pandemic. Travel volume is still around 70%
So why
of the
is
pandemic.
travel
That's the problem.
There are many reasons.
Travel volume is down.
Right.
Compared to pre-pandemic levels. And the day they got slammed at Pearson and YVR, the numbers were actually down from the previous week. So like, it seems like it's an efficiency issue. What is CATSA doing wrong?
So there are several reasons. One of them is that the volume of certain flight numbers at certain parts of the day, so there are significant peaks and valleys. Second,
They can't adjust for that? That's always been the case,
absolutely they need to adjust for that. No, it's not actually, it wasn't as pronounced as it is right now, the peaks and valleys. Second, there's issue also of new travelers who had not traveled for very long, that taking out the laptop, taking out the fluids, all that adds 10 seconds here, 15 seconds there. The issues of training, the issue of preparing the travelers, staffing, making sure that, so for example, I'll give you this example. CATSA used to rely on a 6-month forecast when it comes to labor allocation. Now, they need to rely on a 72-hour, 48-hour volume predictions. So they're adjusting. I'm confident that the CEO understands the sense of urgency. I reinforced the sense of urgency to him on Monday. Transport Canada is working with CATSA as we speak, and the airports and the airlines, on making sure we understand what other bottlenecks that need to be addressed immediately. So I'm confident that work is happening as we speak. We're going to see improvement moving forward, and we need to be ready for the summer season to make sure that everything is flowing as smoothly as possible.
With the staffing issues, is it people leaving the profession, or is it within that 72-hour forecast? That makes it sound like people are short-staffed because people are having to isolate because of COVID. Is that more the case?
It's all of the above. So there are certainly challenges with labor. We're seeing it across the entire sector of the economy. But CATSA needs to take that into account. They need to adjust for these volumes and respond adequately. Okay, thanks everyone. Thank you.
Lieutenant parlant de Nouveau-Brunswick, ça va être quoi votre décision à ce dossier-là? L'appel, c'est bientôt.
C'est pas ma décision. On va prendre une position en tant que gouvernement.
Où en est votre réflexion là-dedans?
Je donne pas mes opinions juridiques en public, vous le savez.
Est-ce que tu es dans considérer la fermeture du chemin Robson, qui est un métier? Parce qu'on voit à Québec aujourd'hui 35 000 personnes qui seraient passées cette année.
On travaille évidemment, non seulement avec le gouvernement du Québec, mais avec le gouvernement des États-Unis pour gérer la frontière et le mouvement des personnes, et on va continuer de le faire.
Si j'ai bien compris, monsieur Lametti,
We firmly believe in a woman's right to choose. We have stated on a number of different occasions that we believe that people do have a right to hunt and sport shoot, but that other kinds of weapons need to be controlled and regulated.
The United States, I believe, my terms may be off, but the United States is bringing out their report on the, for lack of a better term, Indian boarding schools, or whatever their exact term was. Just wondering if you had any chance to speak with Secretary Haslam before the report came out. Did Canada consult? Any light you could shed if we had any links to any of that?
We've, obviously the reality of Indigenous peoples is strikingly similar the border that has crossed Indigenous peoples between Canada and the U.S., very much an artificial one, imposed on Indigenous communities, the phenomena and underlying socioeconomic conditions that have fueled the realities and the focus in wiping out Indigenous identity and culture exists in the U.S. as much as it did in Canada. I've had an opportunity just before last election to speak with Secretary Holland about the work in light, really, of the discoveries in Kamloops. She was very emotionally affected by it, with her own history of her ancestors in residential schools. So it's something that she's personally taken to heart. But we've talked as well on a policy level about some of the work that's been done, whether it's the final report into murder of missing Indigenous women and girls, whether it's the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Something on that scale has not been done in the U.S., so they have work to do there, but they also have other approaches that are guiding their inquiries and the search for the truth of Indigenous communities in the U.S. as well. So it's, I guess, for lack of a better expression, there's some cross-pollination that's going on. Most recently, the last 2 weeks, I had the opportunity to speak to my U.S. counterparts at the UN, and so there's work at the international level being done, whether it's Canada, Australia, New Zealand. But when it comes to the U.S., there's been a change in tone and approach since President Biden came in, and thankfully with Secretary Holland in place, some real impetus to move things as well in the U.S. I often hear from Indigenous communities, particularly those that are along the border, about these issues, and they're very present, they're very real, and it's a lived experience of Indigenous peoples across the Americas.
Is there a chance to work together both sides of the border?
Yeah, I mean, there's always some competing tension. My focus as a minister is to get the job done and in a respectful, engaging way in Canada. But there are initiatives coming out of the U.S. that inform our decisions and knowledge that comes out of the U.S. I mean, the search for truth and that reckoning is ongoing in both countries. It's in various states of maturity, all unacceptable in terms of the results. But it's something that we're looking at positively with particularly Secretary Holland in place.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
European Union is dropping the mask mandate on flights starting next week. What do you think? Should Canada follow the EU? I mean, that's a big change.
Look, Canada should do what Canada's been doing all along, following science and the advice of public health experts. I know that it's not the first time that different countries make different policy decisions based on the science that they have. We will continue. I just had a briefing earlier this week from Transport Canada about the science of masks. Masks are proven to have a meaningful impact on reducing transmission, and they're the least invasive or intrusive tool that passengers can use. So for now, masks are required on planes.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
stopping. Good to see you.